There are stories we tell to entertain. And then there are stories we tell because they haunt us. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. These are the accounts of those who came face to face with something they can't explain. Encounters that defy reason. Legends that have endured centuries. And mysteries buried in the darkest corners of the internet. Dim the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare to step into the shadows. Sarah moved into her apartment 6 months ago. She lives alone, or so she thought. One night, as she was getting ready for bed, she caught movement in the reflection of her dresser mirror. At first, she dismissed it, just a trick of the light. But then, she saw it again, a face, outside her bedroom window, staring in. She lives on the 4th floor. She turned slowly, her pulse hammering in her ears. But when she looked, there was nothing, just the dark night sky. But as she turned back to the mirror, the face was still there, intensifying. Sarah never slept in that room again. Story 2, Black-Eyed Children. You've heard of them, the Black-Eyed Children. But have you ever wondered what happens if you let them in? Michael was walking home late one night when he saw a small figure standing on the sidewalk. A child, alone, wearing old-fashioned clothes. "Mister, can you help me?" Whispering. The voice was flat, monotone, wrong. Michael took a step forward. Then the child looked up. No pupils, just black, empty holes. Intensifying. Michael ran, didn't look back, but the voice followed him, whispering, "Let us in." That night, something scratched at his window. He didn't open the door. He never saw them again, but he still hears them whispering in the dark. Story number 3, The Shadow in the Nursery. In 2015, a young mother named Clara moved into a Victorian-era home in rural Vermont. The previous owner, an elderly widow, warned her. The nursery is only for the children and the other. Clara dismissed it as superstition, until her infant son, Liam, began staring at the ceiling, giggling at nothing. One night, Clara awoke to static on the baby monitor. Through the fuzz, she heard faint lullabies in a voice that wasn't hers. When she checked the nursery, Liam was wide awake, reaching toward a shadow pooling in the corner. It stretched upward, forming a tall, faceless silhouette. Clara froze as it leaned over the crib, and Liam laughed. The shadow appeared nightly, always near Liam. Security cameras captured orbs of light dancing around the crib, but Clara's husband saw nothing. Desperate, she hired a medium who warned, "It's a hungry spirit. It feeds on a child's innocence and is almost full." They moved out the next day. Years later, the new owners found claw marks inside the walls and a tiny handprint scorched into the nursery floor. Sometimes, darkness doesn't hide in the shadows, it becomes them. Story number 4, The Doppelganger in the Mirror. In 2018, a college student named Elise began noticing discrepancies. Her coffee mug would move, her notes rearranged. Then, her roommate snapped, "Stop sneaking into my room at night." Elise hadn't left her bed. One evening, Elise glanced at her reflection, and it smirked. She stumbled back, but the mirror showed her doppelganger standing still, eyes pitch black. It mouthed, "Soon." Over weeks, friends claimed they saw Elise in 2 places at once. Her professor failed her for skipping class. Classes she'd attended, Elise set up a camera. The footage showed her sleeping, while her doppelganger sat at the desk, writing in a journal. The journal appeared the next morning, filled with threats. "I'll erase you line by line." A paranormal investigator traced the phenomenon to a nearby asylum fire in 1952. Records revealed a patient named Elise V., a girl who'd vowed to steal a life after her twin died at birth. The investigator warned, "She's not your reflection, she's your replacement." What if your worst enemy is you? Story number 5, The Whispering Ward. In 2020, urban explorer Mateo filmed inside St. Mary's Asylum. Closed since 1972, the video shows him entering Ward B, notorious for electroshock treatments. As he steps inside, a child's voice whispers, "Don't let them find me." Mateo's flashlight flickered. The temperature plunged. Behind him, gurneys rolled forward on rusted wheels. He fled to the lobby, only to find the exit chained. A shadowy nurse materialized at the front desk, typing on a broken typewriter. The keys clacked. Patient 113 terminated. Cause seeing too much. Mateo's camera captured faces in the windows. Patients with hollow eyes. A voice hissed, "You'll stay with us." He smashed a window to escape. Later, reviewing footage, he spotted text scratched into the wall. 113 is watching. Months later, Mateo received an envelope with no return address. Inside, a patient file for Mateo G., dated 1971. Diagnosis: delusions of escape. Some hospitals don't heal, they harvest. Story number 6, the highway hitchhiker. Long-haul trucker Javier drove Route 666 in Arizona when his headlights illuminated a figure standing mid-road. A tall man in a trench coat and wide-brimmed hat. No face, just shadow. Javier swerved, but the cab's radio crackled. "You can't outrun me." The figure reappeared nightly, always 10 miles ahead. Javier's dashcam footage showed nothing, but his GPS glitched, adding 666 miles to his odometer. At truck stops, drivers warn of the Hat Man, a spirit that claims those who acknowledge it. One night, Javier awoke to knocking on his cab door. The Hat Man stood outside, pointing north. Javier floored it. At sunrise, he found himself at a derelict gas station. Spray painted on the wall, "Javier next exit." Javier quit trucking. Years later, a rookie driver messaged him a photo, the Hat Man in Javier's old cab, with Javier's face peering from the shadow. Not all passengers are alive, and not all roads lead home. Story number 7, the Russian sleep experiment. In 1947, Soviet scientists conducted an experiment so horrifying, its files remain buried to this day. Deep in the frozen forests of Siberia, there lies a derelict bunker. Its walls are stained with symbols no linguist can decipher. Its floors are scarred with claw marks, too large to be human. This is ground zero of the Russian sleep experiment, a secret study so twisted, even Stalin's regime tried to erase it. Tonight, we uncover what happened when 5 prisoners were pushed beyond the limits of sanity, into something far darker. The year was 1947. The Soviet Union, desperate to dominate the Cold War arms race, greenlit Project Morpheus, a military experiment to create soldiers who could fight for 30 days without sleep. 5 political prisoners were offered freedom in exchange for participation. They would be sealed in a gas chamber, exposed to an experimental stimulant, and monitored. What could go wrong? The answer came on day 5. At first, the prisoners thrived. Laughter echoed through the chamber. They played chess, recited poetry, even sang folk songs. But by day 3, the mood shifted. Surveillance logs note paranoia and aggressive delusions. The men began whispering to the air vents, as if something whispered back. The scientists debated terminating the experiment, but Deputy Director Petrov insisted, "We must proceed. For Mother Russia." This is Dr. Lena Volkov, head researcher, day 9. Subjects refuse to speak. They huddle in the corner, tearing pages from books to stuff into the vents. The stimulant gas is changing them. Their skin is shedding. Their eyes, God, their eyes are black. Full black. By day 12, the cameras malfunctioned. The last footage shows prisoner number 1 peeling strips of his own flesh and offering it to the others. They declined. On day 15, the bunker fell silent. The scientists assumed the subjects had died. But when they cracked the chamber door, the real nightmare began. Prisoner number 3 lunged first. His jaw unhinged like a serpent's, teeth sharpened to needles. He slaughtered 2 guards before being shot. The remaining subjects retreated, hissing, "You shouldn't have opened the door. Now they'll smell us." Dr. Volkov's final journal entry reads, "They're not human anymore. They're vessels. The gas didn't keep them awake. It woke up something else inside them, something that hungers." The military quarantined the bunker, but when a team entered to retrieve the bodies, they found nothing. No corpses, no blood, just a message scrawled on the wall in feces. We are forever awake. And then the knocks began, 3 heavy thuds each night, echoing through the compound. Soldiers reported shadows with glowing eyes outside their barracks. One private wrote, "They're testing us, seeing how long we can stay sane." The Kremlin ordered the bunker destroyed, but as the dynamite detonated, witnesses swear they heard laughter, not human laughter, something jagged, guttural, something triumphant. Decades later, hikers near the ruins reported nightmares of skinless men offering them eternal wakefulness. Others vanished entirely. In 2012, a YouTuber named Dimitri filmed an expedition to the site. His camera survived. The final frame? A pale hand gripping his shoulder and a voice whispering, "Join the experiment." But the most chilling evidence came in 2018. A leaked KGB file revealed Project Morpheus had a Phase 2, 5 new subjects, a stronger stimulant, and a single scrawled note. They are still awake. Tonight, as you lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, remember the Russian sleep experiment. Remember that sleep is the barrier, the veil, and somewhere in the dark, something is waiting for you to stay awake too long. Sweet dreams. Next story is about the back rooms. Ever had deja vu? That eerie feeling you've been somewhere before? What if it wasn't just a feeling? Picture this. You're walking through a familiar office hallway. Flickering lights. Musty yellow wallpaper. The hum of broken electricity. But something's wrong. There are no doors. No windows. No exits. Just endless corridors stretching into oblivion. This is the back rooms. A place you don't find, a place that finds you. And once you're here, there's no going back. The legend began on 4chan in 2019. A user posted, "If you no-clip the reality wrong, you end up here." Millions replied, "I've seen this place in dreams." Others vanished mid-thread. Coincidence? Or did the backrooms reach out? Let's begin with level 0. The lobby, infinite yellow rooms. Stale air that tastes like static. Survivors say the walls breathe, that the carpet squelches like wet flesh. And if you listen closely, you'll hear whispers. Not in your ear, in your mind. Stay, wander, become. In 2021, urban explorer Jenna Matthews live-streamed her accidental fall into the backrooms. For 12 hours, viewers watched her sprint through identical halls. Then, she froze. "Do you see it?" she panted. The camera panned to a figure. Humanoid, but limbs too long, joints bending backward. It skittered behind a corner. The stream cut to static. Jenna's last words. "It's learning my route." This is the first rule of the backrooms. You are not alone. Entities lurk here. Some resemble humans. Almost. Others defy description. Take the Smilers. Survivors report grinning shadows with glowing teeth. They don't chase you. They wait, because in the backrooms, panic is a death sentence. And they know you'll panic. But level 0 isn't the worst. It's the warning. In 2022, a Reddit user named u/nowherekid posted 47 photos of his 19-day ordeal. Image number 33 shows a message scratched into wallpaper. They burrow through walls. Image number 44, a half-eaten protein bar with human teeth marks. His final post coordinates to an empty parking lot. His phone was found there, covered in a sticky yellow residue. If you survive level 0, you'll descend into level 1, the habitable zone. Concrete walls, flickering floodlights, pools of oily water that move when you blink. Here, the rules change. The air reeks of burnt plastic. The walls bleed a black sludge that follows you. Survivors report hallucinations. Figures in hazmat suits with no faces. Pipes that coil like snakes and a low growl chanting, and make AIDSDOP. In 2023, a group of YouTubers armed with GoPros vowed to map level 1. Their footage shows a room stacked with CRT monitors playing static, except one. Screen number 7 displayed their own live stream, 30 seconds ahead. They followed the feed like a guide, until screen number 7 showed a figure behind them. It wasn't there. Yet, they ran. The video ends with a scream and the sound of chewing. But the true horror of level 1, the longer you stay, the more it adapts, one explorer wrote. The walls began to look like my childhood home. I almost trusted it. Then I saw my mother's face stretched across 6 feet of concrete. She screamed. Level 2 is where hope dies. Steam pipes line the ceilings, burning skin on contact. Machinery roars endlessly. And the entities? They're hungrier. Meet the hounds. Twisted creatures with too many jaws, stalking vents and ducts. They hunt by sound. But the worst threat isn't them. It's the lights. When the power fails, something awakens. In 2020, a maintenance worker named Carl fell into backrooms. His journal was found in an abandoned warehouse. Entry number 14. Found a corpse today, wearing my uniform. Name tag, said Carl. It had my birthmark. Entry number 27. The hounds are close. I can smell rot. If you find this, tell my wife the rest is smeared with blood. Then there's the infamous mold room. A chamber pulsating with black mold that infects your mind. One survivor, known only as LYR1D, streamed herself entering it. Viewers watched as she began laughing, then clawing at her eyes, chanting, "It's beautiful here. I'll stay. I'll stay. The feed cut. Her TikTok account still updates daily, with 10-second clips of yellow walls. So tonight, as you scroll through videos of eerie liminal spaces, as you feel that tug of familiarity, be careful. Reality is thinner than you think. One wrong step, one clip corner, and you'll join the lost ones. Because the back rooms isn't a place. It's a predator, and it's always hungry. The next story is about the Midnight Game. Curiosity killed the cat, but the Midnight Man does far worse. There are rituals older than religion. Rituals that open doors best left sealed. Tonight, we delve into the darkest of them all, the Midnight Game. A pagan rite said to summon a spirit as ancient as fear itself. A game where losing means death or worse. But first, a warning. If you hear knocking tonight, do not answer. The Midnight Man is already listening. The rules are simple. Write your full name in blood. Turn off all lights. Knock on your door 22 times. The number's suffering. At the stroke of midnight, blow out a candle and invite him in. For the next 3 hours, you must evade the Midnight Man. If your candle dies, he's close. If you scream, he'll take you. And if you survive, you'll wish you hadn't. In 2014, a group of college students in Oslo played the game. Live stream footage shows them laughing as they prick their fingers. This is bullshit, one said. At midnight, they blew out their candles. The screen went black. When the lights returned, one was missing. The others sat catatonic. Police found their friend's journal days later. The final entry, he's in the walls. He's using her voice. But the Midnight Game isn't new. Pagans practiced it to call the weak. They believed the Midnight Man wasn't a spirit, but a force of nature, a predator that feeds on human fear. Modern players report similar details. A tall figure in a wide-brimmed hat, the stench of burnt hair, and whispers in a language that predates words. In 2019, Reddit user/Midnight Survivor shared their experience. I played alone. Big mistake. At 1:17 a.m., my candle died. I relit it, but the flame was blue. That's when I saw him, standing in the corner, head tilted like a curious animal. I didn't scream. I didn't breathe. When dawn came, my front door was wide open. My cat wasn't my cat anymore. The worst part? The Midnight Man learns. He studies your fears. A 2021 TikTok challenge turned deadly when user at Daredevil Dan played in an abandoned asylum. His final video shows shadows pooling under doors, then a voice mimicking his dead mother. "Daniel, let me in." He broke the rules. He screamed. The video ends with a wet crunch and a hat floating into frame. Survivors describe shared hallucinations, walls melting into forests, clocks running backward, and hands bursting from mirrors. But the cruelest trick? Time distortion. 3 hours feel like 3 days. One player wrote, "I aged. My hair turned white. My skin, it sagged like I lived decades in that room." In 2016, paranormal investigators set up infrared cameras in a control game. The footage? Static, except for frame 307. A blurred face pressed against a lens. Eyes hollow, mouth unhinged to a Cheshire grin. The team disbanded. 2 weeks later, their leader was found empty, no wounds. Just a candle stub in his hand, still warm. Winning the game doesn't end it. The Midnight Man marks you. Survivors report nightmares of endless hallways, shadows that move when they blink, and a voice hissing, "You owe me a game." Some go mad, others vanish. Like Emily Carter, who played in 2018. Her phone was found in a forest, looping a voicemail. "He's in my blood. I see him when I sleep. When I wake. When I, static. Then, your turn." In 2022, a priest attempted an exorcism on a survivor. The ritual failed. The survivor's last words, "He's older than your God. Hungrier." The priest's church burned that night. Firefighters found a single unmarked grave in the ashes, with 22 stones arranged atop it. And then there's the footage no one can explain. The 2023 black tape, uploaded to 4chan. A figure in a hat paces a pitch-black room, humming a nursery rhyme. The camera zooms in, revealing the face of a man missing since 1999. His eyes? Solid black. His mouth? Sewn shut with barbed wire. So tonight, as you lie in bed, think carefully. Was that the wind rattling your window? Or 22 knocks? The midnight game is always waiting. All it takes is one curious soul, one drop of blood, and he'll make sure you never sleep again. The next story is about the shadow that follows. What if your shadow wasn't yours? We all have shadows, silent companions tethered to our steps. But what happens when the shadow has a mind of its own? This is the story of Daniel Carter, a man who learned that some shadows don't follow, they hunt. It began on a Tuesday. Daniel was brewing coffee when he noticed it, a shadow stretching across his kitchen wall. But his back was to the light. His own shadow lay at his feet. This one stood upright, watching. When he turned, it vanished. A trick of the light, he thought, until it happened again, and again, and again. Daniel's journal entry, October 12th. It's learning. When I look, it's still. When I blink, it's closer. Daniel set up cameras. Footage showed nothing until he left the room. Playback revealed a shadow sliding along the walls, pausing at family photos. His therapist called it sleep deprivation. His friends joked about horror movies. But Daniel knew it was real, and it was hungry. He tried to outsmart it. Mirrors, floodlights, even sleeping with eyes open. Nothing worked. The shadow adapted. On November 3rd, Daniel awoke to claw marks on the ceiling. His camera captured a single frame, a hand, too long, too bony, reaching toward him. The timestamp? 3:03 a.m., the witching hour. Reddit user u/ShadowWatcher2023 commented, "I've seen it too. It mimics people you've lost. My dead sister waved at me, but her shadow had teeth." Daniel discovered rules online, scattered threads, deleted within hours. Rule number 1, never acknowledge it aloud. Rule number 2, avoid reflections after dark. Rule number 3, if it touches your shadow, it owns you. He followed the rules. Until the night his cat, Luna, hissed at a corner. Daniel turned. Nothing, but the mirror behind him reflected the truth. A gaunt figure crouching beside Luna, its hand merging with her shadow. The next morning, Luna was gone. A trail of black liquid led to the attic, where Daniel found her collar. Chewed, dented, cold. Survivors call it the grinning shade. A 2019 police report from Oslo describes a man who burned his house down, screaming, "It's in the walls. It's wearing my face." Firefighters found no bodies, just shadows on the rubble moving on their own. Daniel's final video diary. "I've started sleepwalking. Waking up in strange rooms. My hands, there's black under my nails. Last night, I saw it in the mirror, not behind me. Inside me, our shadows are merging. He tried to flee, packed his car, but the headlights cast two shadows, his and something else. The engine died. His phone displayed a single notification, a photo of him sleeping. The shadow stood over bed, its hand inside his chest. Daniel vanished on December 21st. Neighbors reported laughter from his home, a voice that wasn't his. Police found his journal open to sketch, a shadow with glowing eyes and a caption. It's loading. Tonight, as you walk past lampposts or glance at windows, pay attention. Does your shadow lag? Does it twitch? If so, don't look. Don't scream. Just pray it loses interest. Because once it chooses you, there's no outrunning the dark. Found you. And the last story for today is a butt, the forgotten passenger. Some fares aren't meant to reach their destination. New York City, 2018. Rain lashed the streets, turning taxi windows into kaleidoscopes of neon and shadow. Veteran cab driver Frank Varga was nearing the end of his shift until she stepped into his car, a woman in a soaked trench coat, hair plastered to her face. Follow the GPS, she whispered. An address popped up, 1240 Archer Avenue, a place that didn't exist. But Frank didn't notice. Not yet. He was too busy counting the cash she'd handed him, cash that would later turn to ash. This isn't just a ghost story. It's a warning, because what happened to Frank has happened to others. Drivers in Chicago, London, Tokyo, all picking up the same woman, all arriving at addresses that vanish like smoke, and all left with one question. Who or what was their forgotten passenger? Frank's dashcam footage survives. Timestamp, 3:17 a.m. The woman sits rigidly, staring ahead. Rain streaks her window, but her side stays dry. Almost there, she says. Frank jokes, bad night? No reply. At 3:33 a.m., they reach a derelict warehouse. Frank turns to collect the fare, but the seat's empty. The seatbelt? Still buckled. Snug, as if holding something invisible. Police dismissed it as a prank, but Frank knew better. The woman's scent, jasmine and wet earth, lingered for weeks. And the GPS coordinates? They led to a lot vacant since 1972. A lot where 6 taxis were found abandoned in the ADS, engines running, seats damp, and fares unpaid. Frank's voicemail to his sister, October 30th. I see her in the rear view, always at red lights. She mouths the same word. Soon. The call cuts to garbled screaming. In 2021, journalist Mara Klein uncovered a pattern. 17 drivers across 5 continents reported identical encounters. All described the woman's coat, 1940 style, with a brooch shaped like a black rose. All were given fake money, and all faced consequences. Take Tokyo driver Hiroshi Sato. He ignored the warnings. 2 days after his encounter, his taxi security feed showed the backseat flooding with brackish water. Hiroshi was found in his garage, drowned in bone-dry clothes. Then there's London cabbie Eleanor Shaw. She traced 1240 Archer Avenue to a World War II-era mental asylum. Patient records listed a Clara Voss, admitted in 1946 after claiming she'd hitched a ride with death. Clara's description? Trench coat, black rose brooch. Eleanor vanished the next day. Her cab was found idling near the asylum, seatbelt fastened around thin air. The darkest truth lies in Prague, 1972. A drunk driver named Antonin Novak struck a woman in a trench coat. He swore she stood up unharmed and got into his cab. Drive, she said. He crashed into the Vltava River. Rescuers found him clutching a seatbelt, still buckled. The woman's body was never found, but Antonin's autopsy revealed seaweed in his lungs and a black rose brooch in his pocket. In 2023, urban explorers broke into the Archer Avenue warehouse. They found 12 taxis, rusted but intact. Each contained a driver's license for people still alive. One explorer filmed a figure in the rearview mirror. The video ended with a whisper, "Your turn." The footage was deleted. The explorer committed 3 days later, scribbling she's in the seatbelt on his cell wall. So tonight, if you're driving alone, check the backseat. If you smell jasmine, hear the click of a seatbelt. Don't look. Don't stop. Just pray you're not her next destination. Because Clara Voss is always hitchhiking, and her fare is your soul. Some mysteries have explanations. Others remain in the shadows. If you've ever seen something you can't explain, you are not alone. If you enjoyed tonight's journey into the unknown, subscribe for more. And remember, keep your doors locked. And don't look outside. When you hear scratching at your window, good night.